The sound of her laugh hit me like glass shattering against tile. Dark, cold, deliberate. She was sitting 3 seats away, dressed in a sleek black suit that made her look untouchable. Her hair was tied back tight, the same way she used to wear it when she meant business, except this time the business was me. I wasn't supposed to look at her, not during the hearing. But I did. I couldn't help it. The way she leaned close to him, her new man, whispering something that made his mouth curl into a smug grin, it pulled me in like gravity. And then I heard it. The faint, venomous whisper that somehow sliced through the courtroom murmur. "He's nothing." Something in me broke right then. My knuckles tightened around the edge of the table until I could feel my pulse drumming through them. The wooden surface smelled faintly of old polish and disinfectant, but underneath it all was the stench of humiliation, mine. I wasn't supposed to be here, fighting for scraps of what used to be my life. But betrayal has a way of rewriting your entire story without asking for your permission. When I first met Claire, she was light, reckless, radiant light. We were both in our 20s, hungry and certain that love could conquer rent, ambition, and exhaustion. We built a small world together, brick by fragile brick. A house with peeling paint, coffee at dawn, dreams we couldn't afford but chased anyway. It all began to crack slowly, in ways that only hindsight can make sense of. Late work nights. The smell of unfamiliar cologne when she came home. Her laughter over text messages she refused to show me. I told myself I was paranoid, that relationships went through phases. I blamed my long hours, her stress, the economy, anything but her. Until the night I came home early. The living room light was off, but her car was outside. I remember the faint hum of music coming from the bedroom, her playlist. I pushed open the door and froze. There they were. Claire and Daniel, my business partner, tangled in my sheets, our sheets, whispering things that used to be said only to me. Daniel jumped up, scrambling for words. Claire just stared at me. No apology, no fear. Just a kind of detached pity. That was the night something in me died. Not love, not exactly, it was trust, faith, the invisible thread that made everything feel safe. Now 2 years later we sat in the same courtroom, on opposite sides of a battle that felt less about property and more about pride. She wanted half of my company, the one Daniel and I had built before he left with her, and half the assets I'd rebuilt afterward, alone. My lawyer's voice was steady, calm, but mine was not. Every question felt like a reminder of how easily the people I trusted most had gutted me. Claire kept her composure through it all, occasionally smiling at her new partner sitting beside her. Daniel, now clean-shaven and successful from the merger he'd made with her help. They looked like a power couple. I looked like a man learning to breathe again after drowning. "Mr. Bennett," the judge said, pulling me back from my thoughts. "You claim the intellectual property of Bennett and Cross Innovations was solely your creation. Do you have proof?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said, sliding a folder forward. My voice cracked slightly. "Every patent and document from the early drafts is signed only by me." "But that's not all." Claire smirked. Daniel leaned close to her, whispering something again, both of them barely suppressing laughter. I ignored them and opened my laptop, projecting a video onto the courtroom screen. The lighting was poor, the footage grainy, but the sound was unmistakable. Daniel's voice. "We just have to make sure Alex never finds out. Once we transfer the prototypes under the new registration, he won't have a claim." Claire's voice followed, soft and cold. "He's too sentimental to notice. He still believes in people." The courtroom went silent. The judge blinked. Claire's face drained of color. Daniel's grin froze, then vanished. I didn't say a word. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. When I'd found that recording 6 months ago, it had felt like acid in my chest. It wasn't just about them stealing my ideas. It was hearing her voice say those words. The casual cruelty of it. The way she'd weaponized my love as blindness. Part of me wanted to destroy it. To pretend I never heard it. But another part, the part that had spent countless nights picking up the shards of my life, knew it had to be seen. I looked at her now, across the courtroom. Her hand trembled slightly on the table. Daniel tried to whisper something, but she pulled her hand away. The judge cleared his throat, visibly unsettled. "Is this authentic?" "Yes, Your Honor," my lawyer replied. "The audio was verified by a digital forensic analyst. We also have the email chain confirming the transfer attempt." The judge leaned back, the color slowly draining from his face. "I see." For the first time in 2 years I felt something shift. Not victory, not vindication, but release. Claire's lawyer requested a recess. They huddled in the corner, voices low and frantic. I watched her, the woman I once would have burned the world for, try to piece together a defense for the ruins she'd built. Daniel stood beside her, but his hand was no longer on her back. They weren't whispering anymore. My lawyer turned to me. "You did good, Alex. This is going to end today." But I wasn't sure what ending I wanted. When court resumed, Claire didn't look at me. The judge's tone was measured but firm as he announced that all claims against me were dismissed, and that charges for intellectual property theft would proceed separately. Claire's mask cracked only once, when she realized Daniel was the one now under scrutiny for the forged documents he'd filed in her name. That's when she finally looked at me. Not with hatred, not with pride. Just a hollow, broken stare that said she finally understood what she'd lost. The same silence that once haunted me now felt like peace. Outside the courthouse, the autumn air was crisp. I could hear the echo of her laughter from earlier replaying in my mind. Only now it sounded hollow. I stood at the steps for a long moment, watching reporters swarm Daniel as he tried to dodge their questions. Claire stood off to the side, arms crossed, alone. She caught my gaze once more. For a fleeting second I thought I saw regret. Maybe she finally realized that betrayal doesn't just destroy the person you hurt, it eventually devours you too. "Alex," she called softly, almost a whisper. I didn't turn back. The sound of my footsteps on the courthouse stone felt final, each one sealing a chapter I'd been trying to end since the night I walked in on them. I didn't need revenge anymore. The truth had done what I never could. It had stripped them bare. As I reached my car, I looked up at the gray sky and let out a long, shaking breath. I had survived the fire. And for the first time in a long while that was enough. When the ruling was published a week later, the press picked it up fast. Bennett Clear's name in fraud case against former partner. I didn't read the details. I didn't need to. The company that was stolen from me was now fully mine again. But what stayed with me wasn't the victory. It was the quiet that came after, the kind of silence that doesn't ache anymore. Sometimes I still hear her laughter in dreams, followed by his voice saying, "He's nothing." And I smile now when I wake because they were wrong. They lost everything trying to prove it. I found myself again proving they never mattered.